Hello, everyone. My name is Maxwell, and welcome to the second annual Cinematic Year in Review. So, here's my friend Alex.
Hello. Thank you, Max, for having me back.
It's my pleasure. We're very excited to do this because this time we started from the beginning of the year and we saw a movie just about on average every week. Speaking of, when we first began this endeavor, we had this crazy idea that if we saw a movie a week, we would end up seeing most movies. Alex, how wrong were we?
That wasn't the case. I think that we probably would have needed to see like 3 or 4 films a week if we really wanted to keep up with most of what's coming out.
I think you're right, and we mostly go to theaters, so there are a bunch of streaming exclusive movies that we missed. So if there's a movie that you think belongs on our top 10 that we didn't get to, we just might not have seen it, please leave in the comments below for us to check out. And so just a quick note before we start about our criteria. One, you'll notice that some of these films are technically 2023 pictures. That's because when they were released, they simply were not available in the continental United States for us to see. Otherwise, they would have been on our last year's list, but we still need to pay tribute to great cinema, so we're putting them on this year's list because they became available in New Jersey, USA, over the course of 2024. Second piece of criteria, the movies and the order that we put them in on our lists is solely due to how much we personally enjoyed the movies. There's no objective metric here, it's just how much we liked it. Okay, so to begin, before we get to our top 10s, we are going to do 3 honorable mentions each. Alex, if you'd like to begin.
Yeah, so the first one I have for my honorable mention would be The Substance. This is one of the best movies seen this year that I probably will not watch again, just because it is very uncomfortable. But it was very, I liked it a lot, very Cronenberg-esque. But yeah, I really liked this movie. I don't really have much negative to say about it, other than it being really uncomfortable. And, I don't, for the most part, I don't do body horror well. But yeah, there were some really interesting themes in this that I think, especially anyone who's growing conscious of the fact that they're aging and coming to terms with accepting that process. Especially for all of us living in such a youth obsessed culture. So I think it'll probably hit home and resonate for a lot of people.
Absolutely. This is a good time to mention my first honorable mention is also The Substance. Great picture. Again, best movie that I've ever seen that I'll never watch again. Everyone involved in this picture should be extremely proud of themselves for how uncomfortable and sick they made me when I watched the movie. It really is a very smart picture. Great talent who worked on it. Demi Moore is at the top of her game. I would highly recommend it to everyone who has a very strong stomach and a love of horror. My second honorable mention would be, and I'm sure this is going to be higher on his list, Robot Dreams. It's a wonderful foreign piece, beautifully animated. It's a masterclass in visual storytelling. There's no dialogue. It goes to show you that the ending that you want is not always the ending that's the best. And I really did think that they did a terrific job in this picture. What's your next honorable mention?
Next for my honorable mention, I have Real Pain. And I didn't think this was gonna make my list at all when I first watched it, but this movie was a slow burn. After a couple weeks letting it really digest, I thought about it and I liked it more and more every time I did. I thought Jesse Eisenberg really did a terrific job making this film, and one of the things I loved about it is all the characters. They just felt so human. Like everybody in this movie is like you've met like a version of that person, and it was funny at times. It was also sad at times, but yeah, it didn't quite make my top 10, but I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Okay, my last honorable mention. I wanted this to go in my top 10, but I just couldn't fit it, is Nosferatu. Another excellent horror picture. It is the remake of the 1922 classic, which I loved since I was a kid. It's really a masterclass in how to do a remake and have it resonate. It's funny, this is an unlicensed, the original Nosferatu was an unlicensed adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula, and this remake of the ripoff is actually probably my favorite cinematic adaptation of the Dracula story.
Yeah, this one just missed my honorable mentions. It was very close, but I loved it too.
All right. Alex's last honorable mention.
Well, it's as you said with Robot Dreams, like you're sure this is probably going to be higher on my list. My last honorable mention is something that I'm sure will be very, very high.
Oh boy, I know what it is.
But Deadpool and Wolverine.
I respect it. I absolutely respect it.
It was a lot of fun. It was hysterical. I love that there are 3 movies in, and it's not in the slightest getting stale. I there's really nothing else I have to say about it because this isn't the kind of movie that I usually love to watch. But how could you not love it? Number 10, I have Perfect Days.
Perfect Days.
This was a very beautiful, very meditative movie that I would not necessarily recommend to many people. For any moviegoer who's more accustomed to watching films that follow a traditional plot structure, they may not have as much patience with a film like this. But if, for the more open-minded moviegoers who are able to set those expectations aside and just watch something for the experience, because this is a very in the moment, Zen, appreciate the little things kind of.
Zen is a good way of describing it. My number 10 for 2024 is The Wild Robot. It's a great movie about a shipwrecked robot who becomes bonded with the wildlife of the forest that she lands in. The animation is spectacular, the performances are great, and it is just a really heartfelt movie that I appreciated. Yes, The Wild Robot is my number 10. Alex, for your number 9?
Number 9, I have Long Legs.
Good pick. Love Nick Cage.
Yeah, and he's really one of the main reasons that Nick Cage has been on a roll. He was so creepy in this movie.
He was.
He did a really great job with it. I loved it. It's one of those scary movies that kind of lingers after you watch it.
Okay, so my number 9 is Monkey Man, starring and directed by Dave Patel. It's the story of an underground boxer who's inspired by the legend of Hanuman to fight the city's corrupt elite. It's a terrific revenge story. I honestly, when I went into it, I thought I was kind of just expecting Indian John Wick. And they actually make a joke about that in the movie, but it's really much more than that. It has terrific symbolism. Honestly, this movie, I know a little bit about Hinduism. This movie really made me want to get to learn a lot about Hinduism, because I'm sure there's a whole bunch of symbolism that's way deeper than I appreciated at first glance.
All right, so number 8, I have Inside Out 2.
Don't hate me, I haven't seen it, or the first one. He saw it with his wife.
I enjoy Pixar movies. Some a lot more than others, but the first Inside Out is one of my favorite, if not my favorite. And, the second Inside Out, while it's not the first one, I still thoroughly enjoyed it. It really resonated with me, especially with the new character of anxiety. And for anyone that deals with anxiety on a day-to-day basis, it's a very powerful movie. Even though it is still a kid's movie, there's things that I think adults deal with, and especially memories that young adults might have, what it was like being that age, going through puberty and just being like anxious all the time. And I thought it was illustrated very profoundly in this movie.
My number 8 for 2024 is Late Night with the Devil. I thought that, by the way, this was a very good year for horror. There were a lot of great horror pictures coming out in 2024. And I thought that this movie was terrific. It really kind of shows that the possession genre of horror can still be very exciting. There's nothing played out about it. I love that it was a period piece taking place in the 1970s. Talk show host whose ratings are failing, trying to do something desperate in order to retain the public eye. I thought that it was great to see such an interesting protagonist who is so deeply flawed. He's going down. He could have gotten off this train wreck at any time, but his pride and ego just won't let him. I love that in a tragic horror protagonist.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of what you're saying because that's my number 7.
Oh, perfect,
It's
perfect.
Late Night with the Devil. And yes, I concur. It was a very good year for horror, and that even more than Long Legs, I enjoyed that one. I don't think I've ever seen a film quite like that. Not that it doesn't exist, but I sure haven't seen it. And it was a slow burn too. It wasn't
Absolutely was.
It wasn't terrifying all the way. It was confusing at first because you didn't really know where the movie was going, but it keeps your attention and it reels you in slowly. And I'm not going to spoil anything.
Right.
The last 10 minutes are.
Oh, they get very intense. It's a slow burn that really just culminates in something really.
Yeah, it's a payoff.
It's a great payoff. My number 7 for the year is The Fall Guy.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I gotta tell you, I didn't think it was gonna make it, but the more I think about this movie, the more I like it. This movie is a beautiful love letter to the stunt community, the people who work so hard and risk so much to make our movies awesome. This was just one of the most purely fun and enjoyable movies all the way through, I think, of the year.
Yeah, I feel like if that one came out, it's only because of some of the casting choices in that film that I don't think people really expected it to be as funny as it was. Like I feel like if that was released in like 2008 or 2009, maybe with just a couple more notable comedic actors, and it would be along like the likes of
like a Tropic
Thunder, the other guys. Yeah. Number 6, I have another movie that I know you haven't seen yet because I just watched it like 2 nights ago. And
I was gonna watch this. I'm halfway through it. I had a late shift at work the other night.
It's not even what you're thinking.
Oh, okay.
It's a movie called Flow.
Oh, you were telling me about this one.
Yeah, it's another animated movie. There's no dialogue in it, similar to Robot Dreams, except all the animals in the film are actually behaving and acting like real animals.
Mm-hmm.
The score is phenomenal. I mean, I love the music in this movie. I love the visuals, even though the animation isn't necessarily as top notch as you would expect from other animated movies. But I like that aspect to it. It makes it feel like it's a more rough around the edges. I need to watch it again. I can't wait to watch it again because this is a very, very powerful movie.
So for my number 6 is Sing Sing. This is another 2023 picture that was only released in our area in 2024. This is the marvelous story of a man who's in prison for a crime he didn't commit, and he takes his time while he's incarcerated to run a theater group that helps prisoners process their emotions and their trauma in a healthier way. This is also a heartfelt true story, which I really enjoyed. A lot of the people who are alumni of the program are actually acting as themselves in the movie, which was a really cool facet. And as someone who was very much involved in his theater group in high school, theater allowed me to have a strong sense of community during my high school years. I really appreciated and related what they were trying to do there.
Number 5, I have Robot Dreams, which you brought up in your honorable mention.
Yep.
This was a great year for horror, but also a great year for animated movies.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
didn't expect this many animated movies to be on my list. But this one just gets me right in the feels. And, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'll probably say it again while we're filming this. But films that relate to me or affect me emotionally, that's where my personal bias will always come from, because at the end of the day, when I'm ranking the things that I love most, it's off that basis of what affected me emotionally. And this really just it tore my heart out, and it did kind of put it back at the end. Like you said, it was a bittersweet ending. It's not the ending that you necessarily want it's more realistic to how sometimes things ends in life.
So my number 5 of the year is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. This is one that I was looking forward to for a very long time. It's hard to, it's funny to think, but Mad Max Fury Road came out just about 10 years ago. This movie has been in development hell. I don't know what's been going on with like the rights to it.
That was 2014, right?
Yeah, 2014, yeah. And I'm a big fan of the Mad Max series in general. I loved the Mad Max Fury Road starring Tom Hardy. He's one of the few action heroes named Max, so personally invested there. And I was super psyched for this movie, and it did not disappoint. George Miller is in his 80s. He is still at the top of his game. I think this movie had some of the best action sequences of the year. Anna Taylor-Joy did a great job as young Furiosa. Chris Hemsworth, most people know him for Thor and other movies, but he makes a phenomenally charismatic villain. And I really enjoyed the way this movie expanded upon the culture of the wasteland in which Mad Max and the world exists. I really had a great time with this picture.
Number 4, I Saw the TV Glow.
Another great horror picture this year.
Yeah. I don't even know, I guess you could call it horror. I mean, there's certainly elements of horror in there, but I don't know what the heck this was. I know that I loved it. I thought the soundtrack was one of my favorite soundtracks of this year. It was visually stunning for such a low-budget film. There's some really deep stuff in there, just about being the truest version of yourself. The limited time we have to do that, and the consequences that might come from avoiding a reality like that, or resisting being that real authentic version of yourself, which was beautifully illustrated in this very fantastical, very creepy, unsettling film.
My number 4 is Dune Part 2. I am a huge fan of the Dune series, the novels. My brother got me onto them a couple of years ago, and I was hooked right away. They're phenomenal. They're deep. For a long time, they were called unadaptable, but David Villeneuve is doing a fantastic job. All around, phenomenal cast. And the way in which this movie captures the aesthetic of the Dune universe is phenomenal. It really is. It very well could be the Lord of the Rings trilogy of this decade in terms of its scope.
Number 3, I have A Different Man. This movie it's so original. It's so smart. It's so freaking hilarious, and it is completely unpredictable. You have no idea where this is going. It totally plays with your expectations in the greatest way. Yeah, I was just chuckling to myself like 15 minutes after finishing this movie, because I was like, that was brilliant. Like I was still laughing because it was so funny.
My number 3 is what Alex already mentioned. I Saw the TV Glow.
Oh shit!
It really resonated with me, man. I was very impressed with this picture.
I didn't think it was gonna be this high on your list.
I couldn't stop thinking about that because it's strange because obviously my lived experience is not the same as the actor or the director or what they're trying to say, but I couldn't help but find this movie to be strangely relatable, and part of it's probably because it features a young man who is getting overly obsessed with a television program, a science fiction piece. And he begins to question reality. Right? Yeah. And I couldn't help but relate to the experience, escapism, the relationship with fiction that they have when you're not really happy with your real life. And yeah, I was very impressed. Great performances all around, by the way, especially Justice Smith, who's an actor I've really come to enjoy. And the movie just really resonated with me. And I just wish it had gotten more press and a wider audience than it did, but I could definitely see this becoming something of a cult movie, and yeah.
Definitely. Number 2, I have Sing Sing.
Excellent choice.
I don't know where was this this year. Like this, I feel like this is what was, there were a lot of great films this year, but I feel like the dramas.
Yeah, it felt like there were a lot of, like, last year on both of our lists were American Fiction and The Holdovers, and movies that were dramatic but also heartfelt like that. We didn't seem to get as many this year, but Sing Sing was a great one.
Loved it. Coleman Domingo, is that his name?
Yes, I believe that's his name.
Yeah, he killed that.
Absolutely.
Just such a moving film. I love I love the themes of being vulnerable and being emotional, especially as men who are really conditioned to hide that side of themselves.
Right.
Even more so men who are incarcerated.
Absolutely.
So, I found this to be a very beautiful movie. That's easily my number 2 spot.
My number 2 is Perfect Days. I really enjoyed this movie. It was one of the early ones that we saw in the year, but I had such a great time with this movie because it's such a marvelous slice of life movie. You don't know a lot about the protagonist, how he got here, or where he's going afterwards, but not every question needs to be answered, and I think this movie really does a great job of showing the beauty in the mundane that we take for granted in our everyday lives.
That's well said.
Thank you. Okay, so without further ado, we are giving our number 1 movies for 2024. Alex.
Yeah, it's
You would?
it's The Wild Robot.
It is a marvelous picture.
It
really is a marvelous, very heartfelt, great talent behind the voice cast. Lupita Nyong, Pedro Pascal. The animation was stunning.
Yeah. Isn't Hamill's in it too, right?
Hamill is in it.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill, the Joker, Luke Skywalker, one of my absolute favorites, favorite voices around. He's the bear.
Yeah. I don't even know if I could argue for this film being the best film of the year from an objective standpoint, but of course these are all subjective.
There is no objective standpoint. We're not an objective standpoint. It's just the movies we like the most. The Oscars are not an objective standpoint because, let's face it, a lot of industry politics plays a role in that. So, there's no objective standard when it comes to movies.
Yeah, no, I'm a sucker for the emotional, the things that get me in the feels, and this. I mean, I'm probably a little more biased because I saw it with my wife too, and we both enjoy it. But yeah, this was this was a feel good movie. This was a sweet movie. Made me cry a bunch of times. So yeah, it has to be number 1 just off that alone.
Now my eyes watered a couple points too. I'm not made of stone. Okay, so my number 1 movie of 2024. Anyone who knows me knows this is coming. Deadpool and Wolverine. This movie made me so happy. It really did, because I thought that this was never going to happen. I'm a huge comic book fan, always have been growing up. Deadpool's always been one of my favorite characters since I was like 14 years old. After Hugh Jackman seemingly retired in 2017, I thought that the odds of Deadpool and Wolverine being on screen together was never going to happen, but lo and behold, it did, and it was kind of everything I wanted it to be. Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds have some of the best on-screen chemistry I've ever seen.
They really do.
They really just by working together in these roles, you get to see how perfect they are as these characters. It's actually kind of funny that after watching this movie and seeing Hugh in the yellow suit and the mask, this movie made me feel like I was 10 again, which was so great. And after seeing Hugh Jackman in this movie, and I know Ryan Reynolds obviously has got a lot of years left as Deadpool. Hugh Jackman tried to retire once, and after seeing this movie, I am even less emotionally ready to let go of Hugh Jackman Wolverine than I was in 2017, and I wasn't emotionally ready in 2017 either. So, look, as long as Hugh's willing to pick up the claws, I'm getting my tokus in the seat. And I just wanted to say that this movie, to me, this year was great for horror. It was a great year for horror movies. It was also a great year for love. Like how The Fall Guy was a love letter to the stunt community. Deadpool and Wolverine was a marvelous love letter to the Fox X-Men era of superhero cinema, because after Disney bought Fox, the cinematic universe there was brought to a close. The last movies that were released were, I forget. No, it was X-Men Dark Phoenix and New Mutants, both of which was lackluster. This movie, what I really appreciated about it was a loving send-off that this era of movie making deserved. It was a beautiful love letter to that era of movie making, and I made me so darn happy. It really did.
Love it.
All right. So, is there anything else you'd like to add about this cinematic year? I think that.
No, it was a very good year for film overall. I would still say that the highs were higher last year.
I'd agree with that. Lot of great pictures, but I agree. The highs were higher last year. I think 2023 was a little bit better for cinema.
Yeah, there were some, but there were still a lot of movies, like going back and seeing, in the history of all the films we watched this year. I enjoyed quite a bit of them, even though they didn't make the list. There was.
Me too. Honestly, this putting together this list was a little tougher than I expected.
Yeah. There were some weird ones that I didn't even expect, like In a Violent Nature. Like, I didn't even expect to enjoy that at all. And
I had a lot of fun. It's not making the list, but I liked In Violent Nature too. What was that one? Beautiful Darling.
Oh, Strange Darling.
Strange Darling. That was also a great picture. That just didn't quite make the list of the honorable mentions, but it was a great picture.
That was close. If we had done five honorable mentions,
it probably would have made mine too, because that was a terrific thriller.
Same with Nosferatu. That was right on the fence for me.
Absolutely. But all right, folks, thank you so much for joining our cinematic year in review. My name is Max.
Alex, see you in 2025.
See you in 2025. And don't forget, if there's a movie that we missed that you think deserves to be in our top 10, don't forget to leave a comment in the comments below. And why don't we hear your top 10s as well? Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. We've had a blast, and we will see you all soon.